Chapter 12. Metaphysics of God. Quote, "A man who stopped lying could bring down a tyranny." Alexander Solzhenitsyn. And this happens as a consequence of the cause, due to the belief in thinking that knowledge is all one needs in society to live. This is no more outside of reality than thinking you can live on air alone. Because intelligence is not enough. Intelligence is only relative, incomplete, and superficial. This is because you haven't combined intellect with the commitment that comes from an extended heart to prevent you from living in the childish idea that someone else will save me and take on the task of leading you to the golden era, El Dorado. This would be more foolish than intelligent. F is major than I. But it is essential to understand it in order to prevent another ordinary, mediocre, and unstable mind from ruling a country, a continent, or perhaps the world, as happened with Adolf Hitler's Germany. And today, the people are ashamed to display that book. Instead, it is time to study it with a scalpel in hand to understand that internally, it contains only smoke that does not burn. Simultaneously, this town located in the heart of Europe is slowly dying due to a latent dystopia that leads to a forced separation of human beings, one from the other. And this is created by a highly organized, covert, oligarchical collectivism, which brings with it an invisible modern technological totalitarianism, while keeping its own people sedated, that is to say, their citizens with small drops of deception deluded in a surreal hedonism or indirect terror, if the first option doesn't work or isn't accepted. And as you will understand, the larger the country. The formula is expressed in the book. The greater the pressure against the autonomous self-realization of the individual. Similarly, this can be easily observed in countries like the United States of America, Russia, China, among others. Quote, "Eres mi religión. Maná." In short, prevent the mind from setting traps for you and being dominated by external influences. However, the time has come for the individual to be emancipated, to be free, autonomous from any kind of extremist religion, nationalism, or ideas of superior races. Be a free individual. With free energy in motion, notice how philosophers destroy themselves with the decline of romanticism and religion because they do not dance. They remain always occupied with thinking of. This means wanting to achieve something or being on the way to obtaining something not yet achieved. Many focus on this, like Heinrich von Kleist, because he focuses on human happiness until the all-destructive force of metaphysics arrives. And naught is the time, such as Immanuel Kant, who explains the human limit after phenomenon and noumenon with their differences, saving only science. Extending with the misunderstood destruction of a sexist thinker who spread the idea of resignation to the death of God due to the existential crisis of Christianity and the added pessimism that is experienced in the West. Another disappointed thinker adds to the suffering and tries to give a timid hope to metaphysics. All of these intellectuals write with the human intellect hundreds and hundreds of pages to try to explain something that many fools will understand without so many words, or perhaps with silence, because they did not accept the Hermetic, where it explains the imperfect and impermanent cannot be easily learned from the eternally perfected. As a result, it brings us intellectual humility, not recognized by many thinkers who seek it in the external forces of politics and economics. Instead, other intellectuals confuse it with the psychology of the subconscious, which is always an external stratum of the individual, without considering the conscious mind that you should not speak with your mouth or take a pencil to record repetitive ideas of the mind. Instead, just listen. Yes, exactly. Just listen to what the whole tells you, and this is the absolute and full prayer. Because there will come a moment when you can only feel it, just like the oceans feel the 12 lunar phases, and believe me, That will be enough for you to escape the unhappy world and give you the strength to overcome the violation of the mind. It is remarkable to observe how the Hindu school, with its Chandogya Upanishad, reminds us in Sanskrit that you cannot comprehend a perfect being with a limited and imperfect body that at the same time shares an infinite soul. Brahman is immediate and direct, the self within everything. You cannot see that which is the seer of seeing. You cannot hear that which is the hearer of hearing. You cannot think of that which is the thinker of thought. You cannot know that which is the knower of knowledge. This is yourself, which is with everything. Everything else but this is perishable. As a result, how dare you reach that supreme level with a pessimistic, distant, and dark aura? To avoid repeating those traps of the mind that only confuse you, it is necessary to understand the foundation of the Tao. The true source is nebulous and perfect, born before heaven and earth, silent and empty, unique and immutable, cosmically circulating, yet inexhaustible and endless. It can be appropriately considered as the primordial mother of creation. Similarly, the East understood that a Tao that can be explained is not the eternal Tao. A name that can be named is not the eternal name. So why seek other things when you are the limitless space, like the ocean, like the universe, omnipresent? And this is the understanding of what should be. Everything is fine as it is because you are a part of what is in the cosmos, eliminating all defenseless emotions, like anguish, or the ego, like anxiety or fear, because you see the beauty amidst the changes, and you will feel at home in separation, because you are not separate, but parts of the beam of that bridge that unites opposites. Similarly, you accept the process of death, which is an organically natural passage, and this gives you a joy defined as understood enlightenment, because it allows you to face challenges and traumas that are part of your life path without escaping but being responsible for it, as it will reward you in the long run. This is your original nature of your being. So, get out of the illusion of anguish and misery that you think of being a body confined in a small space. It is true that you have been loaded with excessive layers of ideas of all kinds from an early age, because humans have been burdened with excessive layers of ideas of all kinds from an early age, but it is not the truth. The truth is to be healthy, and then you don't have to go to the doctor. The truth is to be in the bliss of happiness. But it is easier to believe in misery. Why? Because misery does not have to be proven. Therefore, always remember the words of the Bhagavad Gita. The soul is neither born, nor does it die, nor, having once existed, does it cease to exist. The soul is unborn, eternal, ever-existing, undying, and primeval. But that misery is the past, and it must be abandoned like the larvae parasites that do not allow you to live healthy. Create a new awareness without the imposition of new beliefs, because religion is not science. Your spiritual path is unique, it is rare, and is a challenge, just as Muhammad, Jesus, and Buddha found their balance gradually at that time, with confidence, not with beliefs of an imitating person who also has a low mental age and is weakened by the poison of society. However, you can start by loving yourself first to overflow to others. Realize that the mind is God, the body is God, and just as the soul is God, an integrated God in your being. Similarly, your spirit unites through meditation with the Lord of Spirits, forming thus one thing, infinite and divine. Likewise, every time you go to sleep, you enter a universal state, forgetting that structure formed in you, in that I am wandering, that is not what you are. Because you are more than the words described here. You are everything you see. You are the universe observing itself in everything. Is having faith in yourself. So, as Valera's bear ends, the red dragon of Zhao waits for the Son of Man in the heights of Eagle Mountain, prepared with his army. But what Zhao did not expect is that the sun would come with the spirit of the invisible white dragon and its slight greenish tone. Because at the moment the sun released the old sage from Loma, the Sanghas gathered around him to break through his defenses and resurrected from the clouds that fabulous animal that had been asleep for centuries, awakening it to merge the two dragons into one, that invisible, strong, and indomitable spirit that devours those who try to attack. Do you think you are the brother of Jesus, Buddha, or Muhammad? Or do you think you are the reincarnation of one of them who is in your center? Because you are the warrior of peace, love, compassion, loyalty, and respect, says the great Eastern Dragon when he finds the Son of Man on Eagle Mountain, annoyed by making him delay and change his plans. No, my brothers and sisters already know me very well, so I am not any Hong Shu Quan. I am just a servant of the Lord of the Spirits. But I can tell you that I was not born in this life just to see you do as you please in this world. And remember that between individuals, as between nations, respect for the rights of others is peace. So be very attentive to that invisible line, because you can fall down and not get up. Instead, I would like to know, what is this great dream that you are preparing for your people and those neighboring nations? The sun tells the great red dragon that he is no one else but himself. Quote, "Great nations mean great catastrophes." Carl Gustav Jung. Expansion is essential for every political regime, belief for better prosperity, explains the great dragon vaguely. Growth without progress, creating only destruction and zero collaboration. The sun quickly responds to Zhao's great dragon. No, this is not my political planning. I have been very prudent and have asked for permission before resorting to force, justifies the red dragon. See, your grand dream reminds me of the delirious expansion policy of Napoleon Bonaparte, who wanted to expand all over the world, but couldn't even earn respect in his own home, not even from his own wife. The sun reminded the dragon of the madness of this Frenchman. Because he also had a dream like mine, asked the great dragon, surprised. Yes, the only difference is that his was so insane that it ended in a small island, with an old and dirty emperor's suit that he wore for 6 years, the sun told him. Why didn't he change that suit, so dirty and old? Thought the great dragon. Because his dream, his fantasy, was so enormously distorted that it didn't allow him to see the reality of things. He had made a mistake, and then he wanted to cover his shame with a memory of what was, of the past, forgetting that life and the world are never static, but rather dynamic. And the only thing that is absolute is the all, not transient man, and this was the worst for Napoleon's pride, because we are here to work together, to improve our spaces and help as much as we can. The sun told the dragon the mistake to avoid so that the red people do not suffer what other nations have lived since this people has worked day after day, and their ancestors respected even more the harmony with the earth. So his dream was a failure, not only for him and his land, but for all those around him, concluded the great Chinese dragon in his reflection. And why this eagerness to destroy a way of life when it's not a religion? And this hunger to extend your red territory? The sun asked about the current situation that the vigilant people of the mountains, Tibet, the people of fragrances, Hong Kong, and the people of Formosa, Taiwan, are still experiencing. It interferes with the universal plans of Kalitolika, said the dragon of Zhao to the sun. Also with your plans, since the truth is uncomfortable, and that's why it's better to exterminate it. Moreover, they have created a subtle diplomatic machine in all peoples to control the truth. The sun replied directly to Zhao. No truth, it's not for that, defended the dragon of Zhao with a denial of the palpable. Well, it would be better to concentrate your forces in your territory, take care of your people, and listen to everyone with an open policy to residents and those around you to grow together, without forgetting to first deliver what is not yours, what does not belong to you. The Himalayas, Nepal, Hong Kong, Vietnam, and forget about Taiwan that has never been yours either, before what we all want to avoid for the human race happens. That is to say, what Hermes Trismegistus had said in prophecy, death and regeneration of the cosmos, when he confessed to Asclepius while the latter wept. The sun explained to the great dragon of the east what had already been written. Egypt, Egypt, only fables will survive from your religion, and these are incredible for your descendants. The words that you tell your pious deeds will only remain engraved in the stones. Your land will be invaded by the Scythian, the Indian, or any other barbarian neighbor. The gods will return to the heaven. Abandoned men will die in their entirety, and then, O Egypt, deprived of gods and men, you will become a desert. To you I address, most holy river. To you I announce future events. A flood of blood will fill you to the shores and will overflow, and not only your divine waters, but all will be desecrated by blood and overflowing. The number of dead will far exceed that of the living, and the survivor will be recognized as Egyptian only by his language, because by his actions he will appear different. Why are you crying, Asclepius? Egypt will be subjected to something more serious and much worse than these things. Worse calamities will still sully it. Egypt in the other time holy and well loved by the divinity, the only foundation of the gods on earth for its mercy, teacher of holiness and devotion, will become a model of the most extreme impiety, and then the cosmos will no longer be something worthy of admiration or reverence for some men, spied of all this cosmos that is good. Nothing better than he can imagine that there was, is, or will be. It will be in serious danger, and will become a burden difficult to bear for men who will despise and come to hate the entire cosmos, this inimitable work of God, a glorious construction, orderly arranged with the multiple diversity of forms, an instrument of divine will that dispenses without envy all the gifts to his work of him, assembling one and diverse at the same time, in a single set of everything that can be considered worthy of admiration, praise, and love. Men will prefer darkness to light, and they will judge death more useful than life. No one will raise their eyes to heaven. The pious man will be considered insane, the wicked wise. The furious madman will be feared for being brave, and the most evil for being a man of good. The soul and its doctrine that it is immortal by nature, or that it is held to be certain that it has to achieve immortality, according to, I have taught you, will not only make you laugh, but will be considered a fantasy of pride. Whoever devotes himself to the religion of the mind, believe me, he will be guilty of capital punishment. New rites and a new law will be instituted. Nothing holy, nothing pious or worthy of heaven and celestial beings will no longer be heard or housed in the human mind. After painfully separating the gods from men, will only remain on earth the evil angels, those who, united with men, push them with violence, unhappy of them, to all kinds of evil daring to war, robbery, deceit, and everything that is contrary to the nature of the soul. The earth will be destabilized, the sea will cease to be navigable, and the sky will be deprived of the course of the astros and the path of the stars. Every divine voice will be silenced, forced into silence. The fruits of the earth will rot, sterile, the ground will become, and the air itself will languish in sinister inaction. In this will consist in the old age of the cosmos, impiety, disorder, and without reason of all the good, but when all this has been fulfilled. Asclepius, then the Lord and Father, God maker of the first and only God, after taking note of these voluntary customs and behaviors, will end by his will, which is divine goodness, the vices in the corruption of all things. He will abolish error and put an end to all evil. A will deny evil with a flood, consume it with fire, and exterminate it with pestilential diseases that are scattered in different places, and after that, restore the world to its former beauty, until it seems to him worthy of reverence again, and admiration, and the men of this new world will once again praise God, the producer and restorer of such a great work, with frequent hymns of praise and blessing, a regeneration of the world that will mean the renewal of all good things, the restoration in the sanctity and piety of nature itself, imposed on the course of time by divine will, that is and was without beginning and everlasting, and that remains identical to itself for all eternity, because the intention of his will is the very nature of God. Hermes stops because of Asclepius's question. Therefore, this intention is the highest good, not Trismegistus, answers and asks Asclepius. Then both the Son of Man and the Dragon of Zhao take a pause for reflection to let the encrypted message of this beautiful parable sink in, until Zhao becomes impatient again and says, "Yes, but if I don't expand, then the great America will expand." The great dragon of Zhao remains uncertain about his namesake because they are in a frenzied competition. Do you know what St. Augustine said in De Civitate Dei? The son asks the dragon of Zhao, "No, I can't know because I'm not religious, and my relations are limited to the covert machinery of Calatolica and based only on the universal politics we share in common." The dragon of Zhao quickly responds to the son, "This is not religion. This is a book of pure politics," because he used to say, "The world would be more happily governed if it did not consist of a few aggregations, with their accompaniments of despotism and tyrannical rule, but in a society of small states," explained the son to the dragon of Zhao. "I'll explain to you that the Lord of the Spirits is tired of seeing this act of protagonism by nations and their leaders who want to increase their position in the world. That's why it's better to maintain a decentralized system. This leads to better resource management, more efficiency in services, and greater active participation of citizens. We have come to know very well that the nation-state, as a form of political organization, is just an aberration of historical repetition. Instead, small and decentralized political groups are the norm. Or do you want to be the next Tower of Babel?" explained the son to the great dragon. "No, I don't want to fall from heights like that great tower that was destroyed. That is, abnormal." The great dragon begins to understand the point of view that the son has confessed to him. Then you begin to understand that the policy of decentralization encourages the existence of anti-authoritarianism, independence, autonomy, and self-regulation of local peoples. On the other hand, good practices are shared with neighbors or interested parties. The monetary inflation of a territory is limited, and totalitarian governments have a more conditioned and restricted power, offering a better record in human existence, more lasting and widely disseminated. The son points out to the great dragon, "Monetary inflation. Do you mean not only to increase the autonomy of peoples, but also to stop the devouring machine of the global monetary system, international jackals and economic Icarus, that is, the well-known corporatocracy?" The dragon of Zhao asks, confused, because he had only thought about politics and had not taken into account large companies and the global financial system. Quote, "If freedom of choice is considered an economic advantage, why not also politically?" Leopold Kohr. Exactly, because after the mental control of institutional and religious policies, the modern monetary system is one of the biggest lies created worldwide. That's why it's mentiras, mensonges, boogie, yekdib, huangyan, loge, lugan, that we are governed by an invisible economic government based on forced scarcity, implicit pyramid debt, and slavery of work. Consequently, until the people are ready for the new system that protects natural resources, we have to stop the new rulers of this era. In other words, those who control the economy with more than 10% of the wealth of a people. The sun responds to the dragon of Zhao, meaning reducing the market share of an economic actor to give space to other participants who want to offer the same service or product, says the dragon of Zhao to the sun. Exactly. And in the same way, increase local oversight in essential companies of a nation to encourage the development and innovation of new technologies or emerging activities. The sun responds to the dragon of Zhao. And when will we be ready for a new system that protects humanity? Zhao asks the sun. First, it will take some generations, because before that, we have to give autonomy to oppressed peoples and at the same time help them overcome the ignorance and confusion that do not allow them to see their natural state, that is, to create a conscious and awakened mind within the mind. The sun responds to Zhao. What natural state are you talking about? The dragon of Zhao wonders. In the same way you were born with a natural breath, love has also entered your heart, igniting that beat. And in the same way, we have to integrate social justice, which is nothing more than a true redistribution of the wealth of a people. The sun tells Zhao, wait, let me see if I've understood. What you are proposing is to witness the birth of new autonomous countries with new political forms. In other words, go from 200 countries to over thousands or more countries, giving more opportunity to the individual where they can integrate better, according to their abilities and culture, to be more efficient and responsible. The dragon of Zhao asks, answering himself in a phase of mild mental confusion. Well, it's just the formalization of what is natural, something that has been tried to avoid for centuries with the imposed oppression of larger or stronger countries that are afraid of diminishing well-being for all, because this would create a potential improvement for everyone. Not forgetting that the larger the power, the greater the epidemic of corruption and vices that spread like an endemic plague everywhere, like a precipitating political malaise because individuals cannot influence it against these huge federal political vultures that today become lazy pigs. And that's why Jews don't eat pork. It's just a metaphor to say that when you have too much, you don't appreciate anything and take everything for granted without being grateful. The sun responds to Zhao. But my nation is stronger than ever because I have to leave my projects of greatness now. Zhao proclaims his supremacy or ultra-power to the world. So you decide, what destiny do you want for yourself and your allies? The Son of Man replies to the dragon of Zhao because he also rejects what is natural among the thousands of peoples. Quote, weak people take revenge, strong people forgive, smart people ignore. Albert Einstein. Decide what? Which destiny? Zhao asks the Son of Man because he doesn't want to recognize the necessary change that we all have to make to live in an era of gradual and alternating balance, without exaggerations of power. If you want to give the possibility to this new balance to reunify the lost houses of Zion to the thousands of peoples, or if you want to see the end of our people, like the Second Peloponnesian War, the Son of Man confirms to the dragon of Zhao that which happened in times past due to the same dynamics or conditions. No, I prefer to see these humanoids die with compassion because they are not from this fertile land. They disguise themselves as human beings to use our women and men and enslave them in hellish slavery, pretending our goodness, our thanks given by the Lord of the spirits to human beings, divine beings, created by him, by the Son of Adam, who begets life through the union of all nations and passing into eternity. So, I agree, and we will do this by providing, with an increase in the importance of the citizens' opinion and vote. On the other hand, it drastically reduces the perennial problem of wars between states and their rulers because they have limited resource power and small populations, not forgetting that in fact, small towns tend to be less violent. Zhao responds, finally decided not to enter the illusory mental games of Kalika. This is a true samadhi for the people, so it is. Imagine what Kirkpatrick Sale said. In a world of small societies, in fact, the same size will probably be somehow a deterrent to aggression. Who could imagine an American continent made up of even 50 nations pooling their resources to fight a small nation on the other side of the world in the Southeast Asian jungle? Do you understand now, Zhao? This can be vice versa as well, because we have to watch over all the thousands of peoples with cooperation and development with those who want to participate, without letting the arrogance, pride, and greed of conquering other countries enter our hearts, so as not to perish in a single day, like the advanced people of Atlantis that the Lord of the Spirits made disappear. The sun explains to the dragon of Zhao what could be a paradise on earth. Of course, I understand that the house is one, and it is our earth. Stealing from you is stealing from the same house. Fighting against your people is fighting against mine, which is the same humanity. Just as the problem of tyrants would be more manageable in a decentralized world, and people from that oppressed town could easily move to another place, that is, to another country among the thousands of peoples, without the need for nuclear bombs or large military interventions. The Red Dragon of Zhao responds to the sun with a certain interest in this new policy on the human scale. And so, the colors of each political and religious orientation were formed, with false enemies and more. But if they knew that from the beginning of time, there are only two sides of the same coin, those of good and the others who are outside of it, or on the other side. And we can call them evil, but they disguise themselves very well today, to the point of preaching that they are the way and the life, but they are only the creation and formation of each chaos, war, and scarcity on this earth. Because without this instability, they would not have followers. Also, their own greed to be what they are not creates an incompatibility that they cannot receive the divine light, but only reflect it through the use of people, and not give love because they prefer only to absorb and take everything they can. And this balance of totems, of good and evil, has suffered countless imbalances. Just as the push that darkness has had in recent times has been recognized, and the vehement desire of its king and his squad to break the harmony of the natural balance. So, after the first time and the second time, a peace armistice was signed for the people of this world. But in the middle time, this agreement has been wanted to be broken by the life collectors, hungry for more blood and flesh. Consequently, to avoid the third time that will be fateful for all, the warriors of peace have to be vigilant to defend in case what was agreed upon is destroyed. Keep your space in the abyss, Lumax. Stay on your spiral staircase, Emperor of Darkness, with your warriors of Dark Dawn, who carry with them only iron and fire. To prevent the War of the 7 Years, because you no longer have control of human hope that is implicit, you no longer have power over the people, because they have awakened to follow the great path with gratitude, strength of will, and being vigilant in silence. Aware that it will not be easy, but it is always better to be guided in the midst of conflicts by the Lord of the Spirits, who is always integrated into all and interconnected. In the same way, they have felt peace and serenity in their hearts, because the thousands of peoples have abandoned the personal self and accepted the higher self that is the identity of the Spirit, and therefore found God, or discovered the individuality of women and men in the big family of the mankind. Quote, "On the way to the beloved, love never fails." Mujimala, Karuna, Luis Martinez's 10. However, the birds danced for 2 minutes at the sacred gates of the two houses, Jewish and Islamic, from right to left, like when the wind turns and turns until a strong hurricane forms in the wait for the third, which is the Christian, but it is blind and cannot find the key. But God's time is His time, of the glorious, wonderful and inscrutable plane, and it cannot be interrupted, much less stopped, as 2,700 years were enough for humanity, and all this discomfort came to an end. For this reason, it is necessary to say, thanks, Antichrist, thanks, Lumax, thanks, great harlot, because you made me better. Your obstacles and lies made me ignite this new inner light, this celestial assembly that is like the morning star, that knows no holocaust, and disperses like a sweet perfume among all the diverse peoples in the world. So, this chaos is nothing more than a test to grow, develop, and be stronger than before. And thanks to this experience, you will not lack empathy with those who need you, but you will have extraordinary power to understand what parameter you have to use to prevent a person with bad intentions from taking advantage, and this helps you understand who, why, when, and how to use it, giving you more intelligence, wisdom, confidence, generosity, competence, leadership, positivity, and full of passion, courage, and determination in the present for the future to come. Just as Muji spoke about the gift and said, give yourself the gift of 5 minutes in the morning, 5 minutes at lunchtime, and 5 at night. Do it consciously. And even if the mind is in a continuous boom, 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 don't try to stop it. Just be aware of it, the mind, and all these invitations and things to do on the list that must be done, and only if you sit for a moment and just be aware of it. But don't get too involved in it. You know, just be aware. And then, somehow, attention moves away a bit from the mind, and just stay in a place where there is no mind, just emptiness, without imagination. Just stop following your mind and sit like that, without. You don't have to close your eyes. There's nothing to imagine. Just don't get involved with the mind and stay aware of your being, which is distinct from your personal self. Just a feeling of existence in you, that's all. It is also necessary to observe how humanity has overcome so many difficult moments in history, regenerating and improving itself with each difficulty and problem seen, such as COVID, conflicts, wars, shortages of all kinds, and so many other crises that will be just one more of those that the Almighty will overcome with His act. Because when the hurricane comes, they will be. You know, this too shall pass, and you will not be moved because God is with you. For this reason, the great family has cut this epidemic case with a conscious and present state, without borders, without mental divisions, ceasing to live in the mind that resides in the past as dead matter, and does not allow living in the infinite present. So, they exit the mind, ecstasy, to enter consciousness, syntax. This is the metaphysics of the divine that covers you in the perception of the world, in what presents itself in your ideas, with endless variations of thoughts. An objective world that the mind leads you to, that illusion where everything is nothing, to identify what is good and what is bad. But it is the same when you stop counting in the duality of ignorant minds that is not reality, but a reflection of it. Hence, it is outside absolute consciousness. Because as humans grow, they create a duality with I am, and consequently there is I am not, creating an underlying form with the egoistic effort to demolish what is part of reality. From the religious circle that interconnects each of them, starting from Proto-Indo-Iranian times, that is, the Aryan religion between India-Iran for the Andronovo culture, and similarly interweaving all the other religions mentioned later, passing through Sikhism that interconnects Islam, monotheism, and Hinduism, polytheism in reincarnation, in the same way that Bahaism unites each preceding tradition in one place, in other words, assembles the Jewish, Buddhist, Christian, Muslim, Zoroastrian, and Sikh currents. It is like seeing the union of scattered and separated pieces of a beautiful porcelain after a huge explosion of rainbows. But if in the beginning there was nothing, and then in the beginning, the word is, and what was this word? I. Without being an individual concept, without having an illusion that nothing is, because it is not eternal, and the only omnipresent thing is the complete reality of the spirit, different from the soul, and you are part of that spirit, interconnected with the all. Forget the world and enter the detached flow that allows you to live outside the illusion. Living in the world, nourishing yourself in it for your bodily time and space, but without letting yourself be moved from that world of illusion, because you are oneness and not a chain of duality. Without forgetting that the danger is real, but you are not an ordinary stone, because your master made you a unique diamond in your being. And just as the pandemic has been overcome, any toxic person who comes to afflict your life will also be overcome. And as Napoleon Hill has already mentioned, you can feel hurt if you love too much, but you will live in misery if you love too little. That's why Brian Tracy teaches us to give love and not to fear, in a way that gives at least a little love to others until entering this vortex, this strong emotion, this energy. Because your most important purpose in this life is to develop yourself and become love for yourself and for others. Look at the great models of humanity. For example, religious teachers. You can observe Buddha, Jesus, Muhammad, among others. They impressed us with the love they emanated because they were totally filled with this overflowing love. But as we have learned, it's all a matter of perspective that steals your peace, with the ego always trying to offer confusion, an enemy to fight when you only have to battle with yourself. And detach yourself from everything that is not substantial from that pile of structured knowledge, because it is unnecessary, only a burden for your mind, body, and soul. That's why one morning, May 29th, 2023, at 10 o'clock a.m., a girl from India danced in the middle of the street in Cologne. She was almost in front of the cathedral because she was looking for someone she had lost. But it was an unusual search because she wasn't sad or worried. On the contrary, she was in a state of ecstasy for the joy she had to share with the Son of Man, a special gift for all of humanity. And this gift flourished with the rebirth of a new and different spring. Even though her mother was not there, she was extremely grateful. Quote, "This is a man's world. This is a man's world but it wouldn't be nothing. Nothing without a woman or a girl. L'uomo rincorre il potere, ma lui non sa che il grande limiti. Ad essere como si parrà nel palmo, stringe un'idea che non vive, che nella sua fantasia volle, se non si accorge che poi nulla più senso se si vive solo per sé." It's a man's world, James Brown and Luciano Pavarotti. What are you doing here? The Son of Man asks this charming girl, who dances and moves away from Father Krishna, as he was taking some pictures of this new place they were visiting. "Oh, I have to visit this Kalitolika temple and make an offering with a candle as a sign of gratitude," the girl responds, smiling and happy. Why? The son asks because he doesn't understand what's happening. Because I lost my mother at a train station in the middle of the crowd, and since then, we have looked for her all over India, in neighboring countries, and on the continents of this world, but we haven't found her. So now my father Krishna has proposed to look for her from temple to temple. The girl tells the son about the tragedy that happened to her family. "Can I help you?" The son asks the girl and gives her a personal business card with his mobile number. "If you want, but I've already been to all the Hindu temples and haven't found her." We continue searching in the Buddhist temples and haven't seen her. We went to the Islamic temples and they haven't seen her. We passed by the Jewish temples and they haven't felt anything about her. The girl explains the difficulty in resolving this case that her family is facing, and she takes the business card while talking to the Son of Man. "And why is this?" the son questions the girl. "It's because from the moment I was born, I have been growing faster than normal, sincerely in a hurry, and this is not pleasing to my mother, so she has abandoned me. She explains the reason why her very upset mother disappears from the face of the earth. In case I can help you, what is your mother's name? The son asks the girl, who is cheerful despite her loss. My mother. Her name is Kali, the girl replies while enjoying the rays of the sun on a full spring day and waiting for the traffic light to turn green because she is in a hurry to cross Komödienstrasse to get closer to this Gothic cathedral. And you, what's your name? The son asks the girl before leaving because she was already crossing the street. Hey, Satya, the girl answers, smiling and jumping in the middle of the street as if she were playing hopscotch. Pleasure, Satya. The son responds to the girl. The pleasure is mine, and don't worry about my mother, Kali. She won't return for a long time, and when she returns, I will be her mother. The optimistic girl replies as she approaches her father, Krishna, who also greets the son with a sincere smile. Arriving at the cathedral of Kalatolika, Satya and Krishna do what they promised. They have the candle ritual to respect the old doctrines and rituals of Kalika, serene because they had done everything possible to find their mother and wife, Kali. And when they were about to leave this temple, they encountered Kalika, appearing as a well-dressed woman of high status, telling them, "Wait a moment, do you have change for a 500 euro bill?" Kalika says to them, "I'm sorry, but we don't have that much cash with us to be able to change such an amount." Krishna responds vaguely as he tightens his daughter Satya's hand, since he understood the energy hidden there, within that woman. I also wanted to make an offering with these candles. You know, today is the day I lost my late husband and daughter, Kalika explains to them. I'm so sorry, says concerned young Satya to this woman with strange energies. I don't feel well, says Kalika and starts crying with a slight faint, playing the weak one in front of them. Do you need help? The young Satya asks, worried, and goes to her to prevent her from fainting to the ground. It's very hot in here. I need some fresh water, Kalika asks them. Father, I'll accompany her to the bathroom. Satya warns Father Krishna because she sees the fragile condition of the widow woman. Okay, my daughter, but don't take too long. Remember that we have a long journey to make to get back home. Father Krishna instructs his daughter Satya. As they approach the ladies' room, they continue talking and getting to know each other better. During this conversation, Kalika takes the opportunity to ask them more personal questions like, what are they doing here, and why the journey so far from home? And the young one explains everything. So, you're looking for your mother Kali? Kalika finally asks the young one while washing her hands again at the sink because apparently she feels much better now from the low pressure she had. Yes, we have also asked in this cathedral about my mother Kali, and they have no news to give us. Moreover, we have fulfilled the rituals and ceremonies agreed upon for the end of mourning, so my father tells me it's time to turn the page and change the current calendar. The young, healthy, and strong Satya honestly answers Kalika. Do you have any idea what time it is yet? Kalika responds to her with a very determined manner. Why? Satya unconsciously asks Kalika. Then Kalika approaches and opens the door to one of these toilets, and that's where Kali was hiding while listening to everything because she had begged Kalika for help since she couldn't fight Krishna and Satya alone. Hello, daughter. Did you miss me? Says Kali arrogantly. Hello, mother. You're alive. Satya responds joyfully to see her alive and well. Hello, mother. You're a brew. Satya responds joyfully to see her alive and well. What are you doing here? We've looked for you everywhere after you escaped from the architect's house. Surprised, Satya replies to her mother Kali. Nothing personal, daughter, but you and Father Krishna don't pay attention to me as it was centuries ago. You don't do what I ask, and moreover, you took away the threads to control the situations that govern this world. Mother Kali argues with her daughter Satya about the situation they are experiencing. At that moment, Satya's mobile phone starts ringing because her father Krishna is still waiting for her outside the women's bathroom. "Yes, father, I'm still here with Kalika. She's feeling much better now, and I have also found my mother Kali with her." Satya answers Krishna. "Get out of there now. Come outside. We must go to High-Marked Square. I'm waiting for you outside the women's bathroom." Father Krishna tells his daughter Satya because he fears for the little one's life. "All right, father," and she ends the call. At this time, Satya explains that her father Krishna is waiting for her outside, and she needs to leave the women's bathroom as soon as possible. "My father Krishna is waiting for me outside because we must go to High-Marked Square. Let's get out of here, please." Young Satya asks Kalika and Mother Kali. "Yes, we can leave here and go to that square. Besides, I have a proposal to make to give a decisive vote to this situation." Kalika laughs lightly while explaining the situation to both of them on the way. They walk in tense silence until they reach High-Marked, and similarly, they all come face to face. Then Krishna is stunned to reunite with his wife Kali, who had been missing for a long time because she wasn't dead. She was just looking for an ally to help her keep her dictatorship of oppression among the people alive. "Look who rises from the ashes." "Kali," Kalika says sarcastically to Krishna and Satya. "Kali, what are you doing here? We've looked for you everywhere, and you were impossible to trace. You let me raise our daughter alone." Krishna asks his wife Kali. "Well, I haven't ruled alone in the last 2,000 years. I also have my allies. Kalika is very intelligent and capable, always one step ahead of you." An angry Kali tells her husband Krishna and daughter Satya. "Enough, don't fight anymore. Now I have a proposal for all of you who are part of this family order," Kalika says to all of them. "What proposal? If there's nothing to discuss, I've waited patiently all this time, and now it's the moment for my daughter Satya, as confirmed by the architect. Look around you. People are celebrating my day, dancing and rejoicing because they have been waiting for it." Krishna disagrees with his wife Kali and antagonist Kalika while observing the celebration of Krishna's day and people celebrating in the square. Obviously, people cannot see them because they are in the fifth dimension. They can only feel them. "So, since this is your people celebrating for you, why don't we see if these coins can decide? I see everyone celebrating and eating both here in the square and in the restaurant. And we could take into consideration this delicate and delicious bread that you prepare." Kalika proposes to all of them to play another game. "You mean naan bread?" Satya asks Kalika. "Exactly," Kalika responds. "Yes, let's count how much naan was sold at your party, Krishna." Kalika responds relaxed because she is plotting something secretly, and Kali is angry because it's not her day. "So be it. We start now, it's lunchtime, and we finish at 3 o'clock. Krishna confidently replies. "What time is it?" A displeased Kali asks. "It's 11:57. Satya answers anxiously about the bet that will determine everyone's fate. "We start at exactly 12 Anku. The people eating in the square are yours, Krishna, and Satya, and the people entering the restaurant are ours." Kalika confirms to everyone and assures Mother Kali. From there, caravans of people start arriving who are dancing, singing, and celebrating Krishna's festival, June 3rd, 2023. And they find themselves in the midst of all these people without being recognized or seen because they are in another dimension that few people can enter or feel. The line becomes long, and both the square and the restaurant are full of people arriving for the festival and the good Indian food. From the fifth dimension, they are observing the consumption of naan. All the diners enjoy this bread, combining it with the available sauces on the plates. They also begin to count the income from the sale of food and this naan. As the final hour approaches, Satya intangibly calls the son who had spoken with her earlier that morning. He feels the need to go eat at an Indian restaurant far from the area where the event is being celebrated. He does this with Durga, even though he didn't have much money at that time. Still, he is determined to find a place to eat. He convinces Durga to go to the restaurant on Ash Street, Aachener Strasse. It's 1500, and when the final hour for counting income arrives, wife Kali and husband Krishna begin to count the money. Unexpectedly, it's a tie for both. "We count!" Kali shouts. "I have gross 56,733 here," Krishna responds. "I also have 56,733. Kalika says to them, "We are tied, equal." Satya says, worried, "Do we count everyone eating Indian food in Cologne?" Kalika asks them, "No, because there is still a couple who is still eating since they entered the restaurant on Aachener Strasse late and are not eating near this square or in the Heumarkt restaurant. Let's see when they finish eating to whom they give their vote." Satya proposes to all of them. Yes, they are still there eating at an Indian restaurant on Aachener Strasse. Look! Krishna responds while opening a micro-portal with his hands and crossing space. This gives him hope of winning because he recognizes the Son of Man at the table. "Let's go there." We wait for them to finish eating the naan and ask for their vote for who pays for lunch. Satya proposes again. At that time, the four of them, Kalika, Kali, Krishna, and Satya, wait for the sun and Durga to finish eating. At the same time, they begin to whisper in their ears to convince them to give their vote to Kali or Satya, using all the seduction and persuasion mechanisms that only the gods of the fifth dimension can use before the mortals of this earth. "For whom will you vote? You have made the lotus bloom again." Satya asks the sun, confident of having his sympathy and approval since they knew each other. "No, because you, Satya, created divisions, foolish. This is good and this is bad. And when you fell asleep, Krishna, you know what? Those who were judged good became pigs, arrogant and lazy. That's why the Jews abhor the pig, but they are also wrong because it was just a parable that not everyone understood. The sun tells her everything without holding back from what happened millions of years ago due to Satya and Krishna's naivety." "How do you know this?" Satya remains surprised while looking at her father Krishna, and everyone falls silent. "So you can always vote for us. Look at all we could do together in the continuation of this continued era. Moreover, your life will be divinely like that of a king. Kali promises the Son of Man. You, dear Kali, only inserted the daggers of division among human beings with your damn caste, dividing them into nations without going into more details. That's why Kali comes burnt and disapproved, because he already knew what Kali wanted to do with Kalika. And then? What do you decide?" Krishna asks the sun. "Not for you, Satya, nor for you, Kali. Because why don't we restart this world as it was created? A paradise for everyone. We become an excellent chef, an artist, a dreamer who mixes all the flavors from left to right. Without identifying ourselves with God, or without God, feeling love or hate. Feeling this chaos creatively." The sun replies, determined to both. At that precise moment, Kalika executes one of her macabre ideas and takes over Durga's entire body because she found the crack that the girl had carried for generations, from reincarnation to reincarnation, deprived of money. Living in a Christian poverty made her yearn for wealth. She screamed and desired economic power, tired of being a false, humble, representing the old monastic church with old and vintage dresses. This turned her into a great harlot with 7 heads, doing everything to obtain what was not hers, and clouding the minds of rulers to not see what was evident before the eyes of an awakened one. But at this Indian table, she could only decide who paid the bill. In recent months, Durga had been paying everything, because the son had been deprived of all independence, enslaved by his own people who did not believe he was the chosen one by the Lord of Spirits to reign with his people. "I go to the bathroom," says the son to Durga. "I pay," say Durga to the son, because she knows he doesn't have resources to live. "Don't dare you. You already did a lot for me. I will pay," respond the son to Durga and enter in the restaurant because they were eating in the terrace. "But son," Durga insists to pay. "No way. I am coming back because they only accept cash," he replies to her. Fortunately, the son was very determined and decided to pay the bill despite his limited economic resources at that time. He went out to get cash because the restaurant did not accept debit or credit cards. While the son was on his way, Krishna and Satya explained what had happened and the importance of his decision in deciding the fate of the entire world. So, without saying a word, he withdrew the money from the closest ATM and hurried back to pay and, as usual, left a tip for the waiter who had provided good service. Returning to the Indian restaurant table with Durga and the son. "So, what do you propose, since the future is in your hands?" Krishna asks the Son of Man. "No, wait, son. If you do such a thing, you would break the balance of this world," Kalika says with her old deceptive techniques. "I don't think so, Kalika. Why not get out of this cyclical dualism and create a new, unique, and infinite era that includes everyone, making us escape from this chaos?" The son suggests, looking at Durga, who also nods approvingly and closes both eyes at the same time. "Let's call this new era Saskia," the son proposes confidently. "I agree," Mother Kali says to all. "What are you saying? Son, Kali!" "No, please, wait," Kalika asks, shouting and upset. "I'm sorry, Kalika, but it's better for everyone," Kali responds confidently. At the same time, Krishna and Satya are happy about this agreement, which turns out to be a unanimous decision. "No, I'm leaving and getting away from this madness," Kalika says, extremely upset because she is not the queen of power. "As you wish, Kalika, but if you are not from this era of Saskia, you cannot live in this world either, or you can return to your red planet," Krishna replies, joyful about this new time, this new era, for everyone. "Satya, my little one, go with your father and wait outside. I have to talk to this lady for a moment," says the Son of Man to the girl while caressing her hair and smiling. Satya nods and leaves with her father, Krishna. The Son of Man stays in front of Kalika, observing her attentively. "Who are you really? Why are you pretending to be Kali?" the Son of Man asks seriously. Kalika smiles enigmatically and responds, "I am a manifestation, a representation of duality, light and darkness. Kali is the symbol of destruction, but also of creation. In this cosmic game, I take the form I need to teach lessons, to trigger processes of change. Don't play with the lives of this family. They have suffered enough. If you have any purpose here, let me know clearly," says the Son of Man firmly. "Oh, don't worry. My game here has come to an end. This family has shown love and devotion, and that's what I was seeking. The mother, Kali, has learned to let go. Sometimes, loss is the greatest lesson. Kali." Ka looks at the Son of Man with penetrating eyes. "But you, what lesson do you seek on this journey?" "I seek truth, understanding, and wisdom to guide those who are lost. I don't play with people's lives." The Son of Man responds with determination. Kalika smiles again and says, "Then continue your path. Truth reveals itself to those who seek sincerely. Do not fear duality, embrace it, and understand its nature." With these words, Kalika disappears into the crowd. The Son of Man rejoins Satya and Krishna outside the temple, and they continue their journey through the city of Cologne, carrying with them the lessons of duality and the importance of letting go. At that moment, Kali Ka disappears and hides in the body of Durga, who becomes possessed by a symptom of cobra called Borothea bachellaris. But in reality, it's a Vispera, I say. A Visperina drooling that has an intimidating look but no venom, and its bite is like that of a newborn sucking a pacifier, not because it likes it, but because it relaxes the pain, the sorrows it carries in its gums. So, she starts to fight against the Son of Man because she let herself be blinded by the desire for economic power, the desire for the universal ring. And now all that is left is to run and drink some alcoholic liquids, like barley fermented, called beer until she ends up defeated and has to pay the bet of the final destiny. In the end, after this chaos of death by Mother Kali, it has been decided to free everyone from this slavery of religion, division, or mental prison because everything has been integrated, good and evil in human beings, to unite them in the religion of love for humanity, without oppression or use as things. And it is there where a new hurricane called Saskia, that is to say, extending the heart to integrate Kali and Satya together on the path of enlightenment for all generations. Not two, only one coin with two sides in a new creative chaos of a dreamer who shares every moment with the great family of this world. Because God is not an architect, a scientific engineer, or a mathematician. He is also a dreamer who created this paradise for his favorite sons and daughters. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here at this time. Everything is mixed up. Your boyfriend is now a horse. You don't ask or argue. You only accept the changes that add more diversity, integrity, and belonging in harmony. Eradicating separation because now is the time to renew energy and cleanse the bloodshed unnecessarily. There is no two nor one. So it comes to union with everything, which is a void of all kinds of confusion, represented in zero. This forms a new egg of creation, of life, love, abundance, compassion, generosity, and more, not a humanoid larva. Because we shouldn't separate if we've come here together. It's to be together at all times, and this is Saskia, a crown of water that cleanses and nourishes the earth, animals, and everything that has life to be respected, loved, and protected by ourselves. This is the God I have known because it unites religions with love and the procreation of life, growing the sons and daughters of Saskia to be knights and maiden of life in this new divine humanity. Because the Lord of Spirits whispered lightly in the ear of the Son of Man that we arrived here as small viruses and not as explained halfway through Genesis or other religious books. And it took millions and millions of years to improve our quality of life. And we started reproducing, that is, making love, until cutting from phases to phases. That is, from stones to plants, from animals to now being humans, the species that the Lord of Spirits loves with jealousy, because they are still immature to move on to the new phase. But Durga becomes Durga Beja, a hornet, because she is now possessed by the great harlot of Kalika, who created an army of warriors, worker hornets of blood, iron, and fire, not real bees, using the metaphysics of a snake to deceive the peoples and the abilities of a bee, EVA reigning. But she was smaller, and her uterus was barren as she was old and weak to produce healthy larvae. Still, with her power of seduction as a snake, she recruited more than 500 worker hornets from all kinds of flowers, from all the villages. They were experts in all kinds of attacks, combat, and deceit. And this Fan Thibish Duyen queen performed the ritual of copulating with her blood and their sperm, misleading them all, that is, claiming she was a virgin, but had only used a lotion of Popola Plus that reduced vaginal walls and reconstructed the primordial fabric, as she didn't want more babies after the two previous ones procreated with different primitive warrior hornets. She planned everything together with her father, the patriarch, who organized the divine offering on menstruation days, confusing the bleeding with the false pain of penetrations in orgasms and showing false dex virgination. Like all the great harlots before, deceiving foolish men for centuries with promises of smoke,